The Beatles created some incredible music whilst they were on drugs. Did they not have dope testing back then? How come they weren't disqualified from the charts?
Well, as a matter of fact, there were songs they did that the BBC, who in those days were most of the radio stations, thought were references to drug taking, so they did ban them from the charts.
It's weird that the Beatles' LSD songs are so happy, isn't it? Because LSD isn't always a happy experience. Like, my mate Paul met this Italian couple whilst he was backpacking, and they invited him back to their room for a threesome, and they gave him some LSD, and when they got there, the bloke one pulled a screwdriver on him and made him shit in his own shoe and eat it, whilst the woman one filmed it. And that's a side of drug use that Paul McCartney doesn't sing about, isn't it?
No, I think luckily that kind of experience never came his way.
During one Luzd expedition, or trip, the Beatles became the first Britons to discover the existence of colour. And like Sir Walter Raleigh and his potatoes, they took the discovery home to the UK, where it caught on like hotcakes of wildfire. Britain went overnight from grey to groovy. Suddenly it was cool to ignore society and just be whoever you wanted to be, as long as you had fashionable hair and flamboyant clothing like everyone else.
A pearl mink miniskirt. Must be tailor-made for the freeze.
Were miniskirts actually shorter, or did they just appear that way because people's legs were getting longer?
That they were actually quite a lot shorter, and they got shorter as the 60s went on.
Was there a miniskirt for men? You know, like trousers that just stopped under the balls?
No, there wasn't a miniskirt for men.
That seems like a shame.
For whom?
For men, so they didn't feel left out, you know. And it must be nice to have that sort of air circulating. But it wasn't just clothes that were changing. The sexual revolution was coming, and the country was lapping it up. Most of the change was due to this: the pill. A condom you could eat, a sort of get-out-of-child-free card that meant at last women could have sex for fun with any man of their choosing for 2 or 3 minutes, until he spaffed off, rolled over and went to sleep. Some women were having so much sex they decided to burn their bras because it was quicker than putting them on and taking them off all the time. Free love was all the rage. Thanks to the pill, sex was turned on its head, and its back, and over the table. People let it all hang out, like your dad doing the gardening in loose shorts. And the law was catching up with the times. For years, homosexuality was illegal, and gay men were sent to prison, where as punishment they'd have to share a tiny room with a man for years. But in the 60s, same-sex sex was decriminalised. It was a time of liberation. Soon everyone in Britain was swinging, except convicted murderers, because hanging had just been abolished. For the first time ever, Britain was cool, not just the weather. Britain even decided to be cool at sport. England, the posh bit of Britain, brought back memories of the war by beating the Germans again. This time they bounced a ball into a net rather than a bomb into a dam, killing far fewer civilians and coining the infamous phrase, "They think it's all over," presented by Nick Hancock. Things were really locking up. But the fun, like a Toblerone, couldn't last forever. And almost as quickly as the 60s had arrived, they were over, give or take.